Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of the syndicated talk show, People of Distinction. The talk that gives you an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, alcoleenterprises.com for more info. Email me directly through Benji at alcoleenterprises.com if you'd like to get involved with what we have going. And as always, please continue to like and follow our broadcast. People of Distinction is an internationally syndicated show solely due to the love and support that you all continue to show. We're available across all major podcast distributors, and like I mentioned, people, if you keep following, we're going to continue to put out the content. Now sit back and strap in because we are delighted to showcase this next guest on our network. And on the line with us today, we have the impressive Lonnie Beerman. Now, we're going to be discussing Lonnie's incredible novel, Tears of the Phoenix. Man, it's Amazon, it's Barnes & Noble, it's a lot of other places. Most importantly, though, check out his personal website, and that's beermanbooks.com. There, gather more information on him, on this book, hyperlinks set up to take you to the purchasing pages. Man, I'm telling you, it's a one-stop shop for it all. But in addition to this book, Lonnie has been putting in some work, okay? And he has another 3-part series that's still in creation. It's not available for purchase just yet, but you're gonna wanna get your hands on it the moment it becomes available. That one is entitled The Reset Man. Again, check back in frequently because this is gonna be a nonstop page turner. Once more, that's beermanbooks.com. And listen, people, it is an absolute pleasure to have Lonnie here on the line. Man, there is something amazing about this book. Remarkably entertaining, but so informative, right? Like so beneficial in a lot of ways. Remember being the kid who didn't fit in, whether it was in school, your neighborhood, whatever the case may be, right? And I know there are some of you out there like, well, Benji, no, man, I was always that popular kid. I always had people around that wanted to be my friend. I was not, okay? I definitely had my moments. I was a late bloomer, I guess, but I was not that person, right? I definitely had my period where I just didn't fit in. And I'm not talking about the movie version either, right? Like the real one where otherness felt less like some type of quirky superpower and more like a bruise that you learn to hide. And that's real, man. Like there's something about that statement that it's just raw. And that's exactly where we find ourselves today, okay? Because Lonnie's novel, Tears of the Phoenix, it drags that kid gently into the light. This is a story about friendship as survival, innocence as defiance, and the kind of cry that heals something you thought was broken forever. And today we sit down with Lonnie to unpack this book that readers are calling a lifeline for men, for boys, and for the women who love them. I'm telling you, it is much more than an entertaining read, man. There's nuance here. Read in between the lines and you're gonna be able to find something special. Just sit back, strap in. Let's get it started. Lonnie, first and foremost, welcome to the network and thank you very much for being a guest. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really good, Benji. Thank you for having me.
Well, Lonnie, listen, man, it is a pleasure to have you here, okay? I think your book is fantastic. As I mentioned before, entertaining to no end, right? But it carries a great message that I think a lot of people are going to be able to relate to, right? So, and listen, I mean, an obvious one, I love the symbolism of the phoenix rising from the ashes, right? The rebirth behind everything. I mean, it's such a great message. And we're looking forward to this discussion where we're going to be able to unpack a lot of it. Let's jump right in, okay? We have a lot of information to discuss, and I don't want to wait any longer, okay? Lonnie, first and foremost, man, your book, you treat this quote-unquote otherness not as a phase to overcome, but actually as an identity to be protected. And I think that's a really interesting approach. So let's start there. Talk to us. Was that a conscious reframing of the typical outsider narrative in your eyes?
Yes, it was. There are plenty of stories about kids, doing goofy things, comedies and things like that. But there's not a lot about what it really means to be at that point in your life. Especially if you're one of the ostracized or the picked on group, the ones that get shoved into the shadows and everything. You don't feel like you belong. Yes, it was a deliberate approach.
I love that. Lonnie, it's interesting, man, because again, as I mentioned in my opening, like I was that kid. And I remember being that outsider. I remember not fitting in. And listen, my background, before I got into filmmaking, I was a theater kid. And listen, for anybody out there that's listening in, if you are a theater kid yourself, or if you come from that world, you understand, like we're a gang of misfits, man. We are a little different. And that's what makes us special. And we learn to cherish it. But at first, it can be a bumpy road, man. And I resonate with what you're talking about, man. And thank you very much for going there. Lonnie, my next question here is going to be a two-part question, okay, with this next one. Which one of your three protagonists would still have the most unhealed bruises from their childhood, right? I think that's an interesting question. It's an interesting approach. And then the second part to that, what would you tell them today if you had the opportunity to speak to him directly?
Well, I believe that the obvious choice on that one would be Aubrey. He's the one who suffers most and has had such a tragic loss and everything. But what I would tell him is, look at your life ever since that day or that tragedy. Look what happens. Look at the blessings that you've been given and the people whose love has surrounded you, and how you have, how you fared to this day. It was definitely an epiphany in your life, but it changed you for the better.
Lonnie, I want to go into your title next. Okay, as I referenced at the top of the show, it's something that suggests a cycle of destruction and ultimately a rebirth. And I think that imagery is beautiful, but the connectivity that it carries within the book and the benefit that it's going to be able to offer to your readers is amazing. So I'm curious, man, because I think we all have our theory behind it, but you're the man of the hour. So I want to know your opinion, because that's really the one that matters most. What in boyhood friendships need to die for that bond to become unbreakable in your mind?
Well, the doubt and the mistrust of the relationship and the intentions of each other. So that goodness can take root and grow. That you have to let go in order to get. And that's hard for a boy to do, especially a boy who's been picked on or ostracized or set aside. It's tough for them to trust an opening, because so many openings have been slammed shut in their face.
Lonnie, I completely agree with what you're talking about, man. And again, I think it possesses such a universal message that everyone listening in right now are going to be able to relate to. Readers, when they pick it up, they're going to be able to recognize that, okay? Switching gears now, because I want to, slightly shift, not entirely. Let's go into the writing process, okay? I'm curious, Lonnie, what was harder for you to write, man? Like, what was it? Was it the cruel external bully, or that quiet internal voice telling, in this instance, telling a boy that he's broken for who he loves or even believes?
Well, bullies and brutes and other cruelties, they're easy to write about. That's not hard. Everybody can do that. But kindness and compassion and acceptance, as well as the pain of loneliness, that's always harder to bring to life. So it was more difficult to write about the pain and the compassion than it was the brutality.
People, again, I'm telling you, man, remember, you got to head on over to Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Most importantly, check out his personal website, beermanbooks.com. Pick up your copies of Tears of the Phoenix today. It's a wonderful read to help pass the time on a rainy day, but I promise you, man, it's something that's going to be able to offer you wisdom. It's something that's going to be able to give you information that you can take to the bank, man. It's filled with gems, and you're not going to want to pass this up, okay? Read in between the lines and embark upon the journey. And also remember, while you're at it, you got to check back in frequently because it's not available just yet. But remember, he has a 3-part series that he's also in the process of developing. You're going to want to check back in and get it the moment it becomes available. Lonnie, my follow-up question that I want to go into now, man, what was your secret to writing a moment of genuine, and this is keep it, genuine gut-punching sorrow? And not only writing that, but writing it without going over the top, right? Now, follow me here, because again, it's such a key component, right? Like, I'm not a writer. I've mentioned that a number of times. Like, I was not gifted with that particular artistry, although I have dabbled in writing a bit, right? I mean, my background being in filmmaking, I've done some screenplays in the past, and I'll tell you, man, like, that's where things can easily tip into a melodrama, and no one wants that, right? So talk to us a bit about that process and how you were able to find that balance, because I think you've handled it very well. But I'm curious to know, like, tell us about that process and how you were able to juggle the two.
Well, actually, yes. It was the reality of feeling my personal losses and life experiences, as well as those of my family and friends and people I knew. And that was really the inspiration for much of this story. It's easier to recall a personal sorrow than it is to make one up. And that really, what I was able to do was to tap into my personal, sorrows about that. Well, there really haven't been very many books about how boys at that age deal with this stuff, and how, because that's a very transitional part of life. You leave boyhood behind, and there's manhood looking at you in the face, and you don't know what you're looking at. So, I mean, that is a very pivotal moment in a boy's life, every boy. At that 10, 11, 12-year-old age, that's when life changes for everybody. So it was important to address that.
Lonnie, thank you very much for that, man. Listen, we talked a little while ago about the imagery of the phoenix, right? And how it offers wisdom. Well, let's head back there, right? Let's tap back into that quickly. And not necessarily the phoenix, but another gem, another helpful tip. Because again, man, like you mentioned, there's not a whole lot of books out there written for young boys, right? Written for that coming of age and for that transition in their lives. Well, what single, maybe even outdated rule about how boys should be did this novel allow you to throw away, to burn, to use that phoenix reference again? Talk to us a little bit more about that.
Okay. Well, it's the rule that I would throw out, or that I threw out, it was the emotionally destructive rule that said boys should not let their feelings show. Big boys don't cry kind of thing. And that hiding them is what a man does. And that can be very destructive to a boy when he feels like he can't express himself because he'd be judged for his expression.
Lonnie, listen, man, I love that notion. Okay. And as someone who was raised in a household with 5 older brothers, my goodness, man, when I tell you the amount of masculine energy that was constantly going through that house, it was suffocating to a degree. But what I loved as I got older was I was always very blessed, man. Like my father was always someone that has always been very emotionally aware, very emotionally intelligent, and really bestowed that importance. And in my opinion, there's nothing more manly than a man that can be open and vulnerable about his feelings. It's something that isn't talked about enough. And I love the fact that you took it there. And people, listen, I promise you, man, that's one gem. A very important one, but it just scratches the surface. Okay, there is a lot more underneath. And it's funny to me how we are at a time now where that's still a thing, right? Where men are squelching their feelings away because there is something that is frowned upon for being vulnerable, and a much longer discussion. We'll tap in on that a little bit more. But Lonnie, I want to ask, man, like, if a parent is afraid for whatever reason to hand this book to their son because of its themes or what have you, like, what would you want that parent to know is on the other side of that supposed fear?
Well, they should know, and I know myself from personal family experience, they should know that love, peace, and self-acceptance grow from understanding that the drummer beats differently for everybody. It's everybody's got the drummer they listen to, and you just should accept that fact and listen for your own drummer and don't worry about what other drummers are playing for other people.
Lonnie, as we start to close out, man, last couple of questions here for you. We've discussed a lot of information here today, a lot of great information so far, but I want to ask, because of course, you mentioned it before in terms of a coming of age novel for boys, and there's not a whole lot there about subject matter like this for young, impressionable boys. But not a whole lot is different from none, right? So there are some. Curious to know, man, like what makes your book different than others in its genre?
As we mentioned before, there are not very many books that deal with the very vulnerable point in life when they're transitioning from boys into men, and sometimes they deal with trauma that people don't understand. A boy will react to a situation differently than a man, and he's trying to learn how and why that man reacts that way and he doesn't. He experiences self-doubt and things like that. That's what he has to get through, and it's always better, easier to get through that if you have someone, a friend, to help you along with that. But true friendship is often very, very hard to find. You have to look at the background of the boys and see what they've been through and what brought them to the point that they're at. So I believe this story demonstrates that. Three different perspectives.
Lonnie, man, I think your book is fantastic, man. It's perfectly timed. We are living in a society right now that can be very misogynistic. And okay, I guess an argument can be made that that's probably been since the dawn of humanity. I got it. But right now, over the past, I would say, decade or so, that's at least when my awareness to this new genre that has sprouted up of like manosphere topics, or I guess that's what their genre is called, it's manosphere, or something like that, right? And it's just an overly excessive misogynistic type of content that has become very mainstream. And the reason why this is so bad, because listen, we live in a free country, man. This is freedom of speech. People can say what they want to say, but the problem is it takes these young, vulnerable boys that are falling into the trap where they're following some of the most misogynistic men that prey on these young boys because emotionally they haven't developed enough. And then you have them feeding into this behavior, and it really is, It's toxic, right? It's toxic masculinity. And your book, I think, is perfectly timed because it combats that beautifully. Now, people understand it's just a precipice, man, okay? It starts here, but by no means does it end. There's a lot of work that still needs to be done, okay? There is a journey that you're going to need to be taking. But my goodness, what a wonderful place to start. So I'm going to say it again, right? One last time. Remember, it's Amazon, it's Barnes & Noble, it's BeermanBooks.com. The book that we discussed today is called Tears of the Phoenix. It's one you're going to want to add to your shelf, but remember, there is another 3-part series that he's working on. You're going to want to get your hands on it. Check back in frequently to make sure you pick it up the moment it's available. It's going to be entitled The Reset Man. Promise you, man, that's one you're going to want to add to your shelf as well. But before we get there, you have this journey that you're going to need to embark upon. And I want to pose a challenge to each and every one of you out there. After you head on over and you purchase your copies, after you finished reading this book, I want you to have conversations. I want you to talk with those around you and share your insights, man. Talk about what this book made you think, about what it made you feel, about some toxic masculinity that we see happening in our world right now. And I think that by utilizing this book and the messages found within, we can create more awareness to what we see happening, and we can combat it in a really healthy way. And I think that if you take nothing else, man, if you're able to do that, I think that's where the power of this book lies. And that's when we're really going to start to churn over a new leaf. I'm excited to see how that happens. I'm excited to read the comments, but it starts with this book. Head on over there, purchase your copies today. Lonnie, this has been an absolute pleasure, man. Keep up the fantastic work. And once again, thank you for being a guest on People of Distinction.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been quite an honor, Mitch. I appreciate it.